Hello, sexy souls, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm sending you so much love and light as always. My name is Maya Amar, and I'm a trauma, manifestation, and embodiment coach here to help you heal and manifest all your beautiful desires, and especially to defy all limiting beliefs. Thank you for taking the first step today towards manifesting your ideal life. So today I wanted to talk to you about how trauma affects our memories and our identity. What a lot of people don't know is that trauma really messes up our memories, and therefore it messes up our identities. And unfortunately, this is not talked about enough in the trauma world or anywhere in general. And it's very unfortunate, because if we really understood how trauma affected our memories, we can unlock such a huge part of our identity that we have been missing. And this is very crucial, because we walk around today thinking this is how we have always been. This is, our identity, nothing's ever changed. But it's not really that case. Apart from going through trauma and apart from being programmed a certain way and having certain conditioning by our parents, our family, our friends, our society, so on and so forth, trauma also affects us in a completely different way that we don't know about. And it's so important to know this, because once you realize this, you'll know that you are not who you have become conditioned to be. There's a difference between your authentic self and the person you have become conditioned to be and act in certain ways, and so on and so forth. So the biggest takeaway I want you guys to have from today's session is trauma affects our memories, okay? And I mean this in the sense, if you ever encounter somebody before their trauma and somebody after, there's a lot of research that has actually been done on this. There is such a huge gap in this person and who they have become before and after the trauma. And what research has found is that trauma completely wipes their memory from everything they have experienced before this trauma. That's why a lot of people will continue to say, oh, nobody's ever loved me. I have never been good enough. This is how my life has always been. I've always been worthless. I've always doubted myself, and this and this and that. But that's not the case, because somebody who has seen you before the trauma, for example, could say, no, you had a great career, you had a great relationship, you had a wonderful life, you had this and this and this. But after the trauma, your memories completely change and they switch. And now your brain thinks, no, I've never been good enough. Nobody's ever loved me. Nobody's ever respected me. I've always been worthless. I can't do this. I can't do that. But truly, if you can recall everything that happened before the trauma, you'll see how dramatically different your life was. And just consider this. I think this is the thing that would apply to almost everybody, is relationship trauma. Let's say you were growing up, you were very secure in yourself, and you had a good amount of self-confidence, and then you entered a relationship. And that relationship was destructive and toxic, and it brought a lot of drama, and it was very damaging, and it caused you a lot of trauma, okay? From that point forward, every relationship that you get into is going to unlock a pattern of toxicity and trauma and damage and so on and so forth. And that trauma now changes your memories. And so you get to a certain point, I've never had a good relationship. I've always been worthless. All relationships are toxic. All men are dogs. All women are crazy. This and that. And that is such, I don't even know the best term it's almost a risk factor, and it's something so huge that we truly need to understand, because this is not who you are currently. Not to say, oh, you're being fake, not at all. My point here is to deliver the message of how trauma changes our memories. This is why a lot of children who go through childhood trauma don't remember most of their childhood. And it's, I don't want to say dangerous, but it's almost dangerous because then we lose our essence. We lose a bit of our authentic self. We lose a part of our identity that we once carried. Let's say you were a straight A student and you were always fantastic and you were very confident in your capabilities and you had great talents and so on and so forth. And then something very traumatic happens in your school setting or in your sports setting that completely damages your self-esteem and the way you thought you could get things done. And again, a trauma loop will be unlocked. Your nervous system became so incredibly dysregulated that now it's always looking for those certain situations. And then again, you'll reach a certain point and say, you know what? I was never good enough. I was never able to accomplish this. I can't do this. I can't do that. And once we realize that, you can say, wait, hold up a minute. Who was I before all of this happened? Who was I before the trauma? Who was I before the conditioning? Who was I before the nervous system dysregulation? Once you tap into that, you can recall who you really were. Who you were before all the conditioning. Who you were before all the programming. And then you'll little bit by little bit start to get a little bit of your essence. And the most important thing to do here is to become aware and to forgive yourself. Because I know that once this pattern is unlocked for certain people, they will feel a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of anger and a lot of resentment towards themselves. Why have I become this way? And again, they'll get into that loop of I was never good enough, yada, 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 yada. And so it's very important here to recognize, you know what? That wasn't me. That was the trauma. That was the conditioning. Did you have a part to play in that? Possibly. But we are human and we all go through things that we don't want to go through, and life throws challenges at us all the time. But once you start to recognize the little things, the little changes in identity that have happened to you because of this trauma, you can start to recall who you were before and appreciate that part of you before. You know, I was really good in my relationships. I was very happy and I was very confident and I was very secure in myself. And that traumatic relationship, while it may have been damaging, now I know. And now I can heal from it and I can set myself at a higher standard. And I can move forward with grace and forgiveness and healing and love towards myself. Okay, and same thing through career, same thing through friendships, through everything in your life. Once you become aware of that, you can hold yourself to a new higher standard after you have healed those wounds and step into your most authentic self and into your higher self once again. And that's really the most important thing you can do. But I really wanted you guys to know this. It's very, very important to know that trauma messes up with our memories, because here's the thing, memories are very strongly associated with emotion. You can't have a memory if there was no emotion, and that's part of our limbic system in the brain. And if you can't connect, and that's actually another thing that you guys should know, is that in able to think more, we have to feel more. And a lot of people I heard this growing up a lot, is they shut off your heart, just think with your brain, just use your head. Stop thinking with your heart, stop leading with your heart. But the thing is, you can't use just one. You need to feel more emotions in order to think more and in order to come to a good decision. You can't have one without the other. And so this is why it's very important to become aware of how our brain works and what we need to do in order to move forward with this knowledge and stepping into our most authentic self once again. So some things you can do. Sit down and recall some of the most traumatic events in your life, but in a safe way, not in a way to re-traumatize yourself and not in a way to activate your nervous system once again and so it's freaking out. But, and take it one little area at a time. Think of your relationships. Did you have a very toxic and abusive relationship that you think has truly messed with your identity and your memories? Did you have a really traumatic work experience that messed up with your identity? And did you have, this big family trauma that messed with your identity and things were never the same after that? You can recall those little things and then try to remember, little bit at a time, who was I before? What was I like? Did I always think this way about myself? Was this the ultimate belief system that I had and it has never changed? And once you ask yourself those questions, you can start to unlock little parts of you that have been missing for a very, very long time. And you can move forward as well into healing them and correcting those parts and giving them the love and attention that they needed, that they hadn't gotten in a very long time, because you had abandoned that part of yourself. Once you stepped into this conditioned person, you had abandoned yourself because you felt that you were worthless. You felt that you shouldn't get a good relationship, a good job, or anything in your life, that you were too much of this or you were too little of that. And once you can love yourself for all of those things and recognize, you know what, it's okay, I went through all of this and I may have lost a part of who I am and my identity, but now I can be better than I was before. And that's all that it's about, is awareness and forgiveness and healing all those parts of you that have once become abandoned by other people and the trauma that they caused you, and then how you abandoned yourself afterwards. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I'm always here to give you all the best tips that I have for you to be able to work through all these emotions and all these traumas and to step into your highest, most authentic, sexiest version of yourself. And I will see you next time.